Welcome back. WNST and up late watching World Series games. They got the Caps in progress. NBA's going now. And, of course, the Ravens are going to give us a whole weekend off after this Dolphins game on Thursday night. This guy spends his Sundays red zoning and back and forth, as he's done for so many years as an NFL writer for Pro Football Weekly. He joins us from the fighting city of Chicago. I feel like we've lost to Chicago, Minnesota. We've lost all around the league. Eric Edholm joins us now from Illinois. He is Eric_Edholm. You can also follow his work out at Pro Football Weekly as well as on Twitter. What's going on, man? We got a bad football team in progress here right now, Eric. I mean, this is a tough time to be a Raven fan right now, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you look at the lack of weapons. You look at all the injuries that have happened. I mean, this was such a good run defense, and you lose a few key guys up front, and all the things that have become kind of hallmarks of John Harbaugh's teams have kind of gone away a little bit. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, this is where great coaching can help a team kind of steady things a little. But, yeah, it obviously has been disappointing the last few games.
Well, the injuries are, the story of the league, I think. And part of this, the big picture for me when I've talked to guys like you and people that watch a lot of film is, tactically, there's not a lot of good football being played right now, and maybe in the middle of all of this mediocrity in taking the Aaron Rodgers and star players out. And, we're on our second team in 4 days, Eric, playing with their third-string quarterback. We still have our first-string quarterback and can't do anything because we have 20 other guys injured. It's a bad brand of football right now. Week after week, game after game, there are not a lot of good teams, and there's a lot of real slop going on right now, I think, in the league.
Yeah, I mean, we still have had some exciting games recently. I mean, last week we probably saw the best game of the season, or one of the most entertaining games of the season, with that Raiders-Chiefs game on Thursday. And, there maybe Sunday's action wasn't so great, but there's still been some good individual games. And if you're going to look at the positive side of things, I think, teams like the Philadelphia Eagles all of a sudden have to be considered a Super Bowl contender. The Kansas City Chiefs were unbeaten through 5 games. They've lost 2 straight. How good are they? They're kind of at a flashpoint of their season. So there's at least some intrigue. But you're right. I mean, the quality of play, especially when, stalwarts go down and you see tough stories like Joe Thomas in Cleveland, it does hurt the quality of play around the league. We've seen penalties up and down and, kind of fluctuating depending on the referee crew. So those are the negatives that come with all the excitement about the unknown of the season.
Yeah, we say, well, how can the Cleveland Browns get any worse? Well, take Joe Thomas out. We'll see, right?
Oh, gosh. What's bottom for them? I mean, this has to be it, right? They've now benched their rookie QB twice in 7 weeks, and Thomas, the one guy they could count. I just feel so bad for them. I know there's not a lot of sympathy in Baltimore, but, man, that's just brutal.
I don't know if it's sympathy, but it is really a pathetic show going on there. And, we're in the middle of a couple of really bad weeks of football. And I say to the Ravens fans, you want to fire Harbaugh, you want to get rid of Flacco, you want Ozzie you want Steve to sell you want all of that. And then you see where the Cleveland Browns are. And in the midst of all this, with the knee and the flag and all I'm never going to a game again and I hate the Ravens, I see that all up and down my Facebook page, and I'm like, I spent 13 years here without a football team, and I've watched for 2 decades as the Browns have had this awful football team. That's not what our franchise has been, but certainly it's teetering a little bit right now, I think, for Harbaugh, for Flacco, for the whole organization here.
Yeah, I mean, people obviously have taken a lot of looks at Flacco's contract and said, boy, the farther we get away from him signing that, the worse it looks. And yet, that there's still a belief, I think, in league circles that the Ravens are still tied to him in a lot of ways. And it's a marriage that is going to keep going for a little while, I suspect. And yet you also have to think about the future. And 2018 might be another test, assuming that, that Ozzie is still there and that, he's not passing the baton to Eric DeCosta or there's not some big shakeup or anything. That they're going to stick with Flacco, but that they have to start thinking about the next phase. And that 2018 might be a great opportunity for them to find his eventual replacement. It's going to be interesting to see how all these batons get passed, so to speak. And, that's got to be a big priority, I think, in the offseason.
Well, with teams in transition, this is what this is about, to say, where are your young players? Who are the young players? In the case of the Ravens, maybe it's Ryan Jensen stepping up on the offensive line. But the guys that are actually out there playing and earning their time and getting an opportunity. I mean, we saw that with Zach Orr here through a couple of years before the injury to his neck. It cost him his career at a young age. But seeing an emerging young player, maybe we're seeing that in Marlon Humphrey. But, aside from that around here, there's a lot of guys that are drafted. We're familiar with their name. They're on the field now, and they haven't been real difference makers.
Yeah, I think obviously you'd love to see some of these young guys step up. Tim Williams would be a good example. He's a third-round pick who some people felt like had some first-round traits. You'd love to see something out of him. Chris Wormley also taken in the third round. There was Carl Davis, I think was a third rounder a couple of years ago. You'd love to see him produce at a high level. Willie Henry, I know he was only a fourth rounder, but some of these mid-round picks, those were the selections, I think, in recent years that made the Ravens so good. They were able to find these gems, even if they missed on a higher pick or a second rounder. I know that round has been a little tricky for them at times, but yeah, some of these third and fourth rounders were the hallmarks of their draft. So finding one of those defensive impact players, you mentioned Humphrey's been really good so far. I like what I've seen. But finding some of those mid-round contributors as well is going to be important, and can one of those guys step up?
He is Eric Edholm. He is Eric_Edholm. He's an NFL writer for Pro Football Weekly. I need to tell you about Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need Freedmont's education online. You can visit them at FreedmontMortgage.com. Also, our friends at Al's Seafood in Essex. I've been getting crabs and crab cakes there since the 1970s. They are the oldest crab house in Baltimore, still at Stemmers Run and Eastern. See Chad the Crab Man and find them at Al's Seafood in Essex. Eric, for the rest of this schedule and the rest of these teams, you mentioned Philadelphia maybe as a standout. Certainly the Patriots were expected to be a standout team. But, I look up and see the 4-2 Bills, the 4-2 Dolphins, the Jaguars at 4-3. Some of these moribund franchises, the LA Rams at 5-2. This has been a little bit of a swing season for some of these teams. The Dolphins are one of them. They have not played good football, but they've won. They've won games. They came back. They beat the Jets. They're on their third quarterback. This is an interesting matchup this week for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins have been outscored by 20 points, and they're 4-2. And, I just lost Jay Cutler. They're a tough one to figure out. Obviously, the schedule plays into it. So there are a lot of teams, I think, like that who are there's legitimate doubt being cast on it. So, I understand all the suspicion about a lot of these teams that are up top, and that makes perfect sense to me. And so, I think that speaks for the entire NFL at this point. Everybody's kind of at a proving point, but the Dolphins in particular, with Matt Moore here, and we know the Ravens beat them last year pretty handily. That was a game that I think set in my head that maybe the Dolphins didn't deserve to be a playoff team a year ago, and why I had doubt about them coming into this year. Not that losing to the Ravens was so bad, but more that this was not a great Ravens team last year. We know what they were. And the Dolphins losing that game, and by the margin in which they did, kind of made me think, hey, Adam Gase has done a really nice job patching holes. I mean, look, they, given everything that they've faced this offseason, the fact that they're 4-2 right now, hat tip to him. I mean, he's done a tremendous job. They lose Ryan Tannehill. They have the hurricane hit. They have to now play 16 straight games this season after the week one bye is kind of forced upon them. So
don't forget the cocaine-sniffing O-line coach, too. They got to throw that in there. That was a drama.
I mean, that's insane, right? Who has to deal with that kind of stuff? So to their credit, they've been able to not only kind of hold things down a little bit, they're winning football games. I don't care who they're playing. They're still doing more than what I thought they could at this point. So Moore gets the ball again. I thought he would have been a perfectly fine option to start the season, and it's going to rely on the defense. They've got a good front, the run game coming up with some plays, Jay Ajayi. And, it's in a lot of ways similar to the formula that the Ravens hope to win with, even if they're, shorthanded at some spots.
Some of these other teams that have upstart, the Chargers would be one of them. They're going to New England. We'll see them. And this is kind of a weird weekend for me, Eric. I get to, stay home, sit on the couch, and watch Red Zone. Anytime the Ravens play a Thursday or Monday or have a bye, I get to sit around and watch all of it. I'm kind of interested in watching the Chargers play because I haven't seen them play. And Neither of they don't have any fans either, by the way. I want to put there are no Chargers fans that watch them play, but they've won recently, and for that, both of those LA teams were considered to be DOA a month ago, and all of a sudden they've won a lot of football games in Los Angeles recently.
Yeah, I mean it's the Chargers were one of those teams that when I looked in the offseason, I was trying to think of teams that could make that big jump up, and they were 5-11 a year ago. Even with the move, and even with all the turmoil and the injuries they faced last year, I just thought this might be a team that could surprise some people. Of course, when they start 0-4, I look like a moron, but they were close games. They were losing on missed field goals and turnovers late, and just one or two mistakes. That's how they lost games a year ago. But now 3 straight wins. Big win at the New York Giants. Look, they had to have it. The Giants were winless. They were desperate too. They beat a plucky Oakland team that I think was also kind of in that desperation mode. And then they turned in their most dominant performance of the season against the Denver Broncos. Now, I was in Foxborough. Patriots had their best game of the year. So obviously this is going to be a fascinating matchup. Chargers, Patriots, not what we expected at this point, but it's really about that pass rush. The defense has played really well overall this season. They haven't allowed more than 26 points. I still give the Patriots the edge in this one, but the Chargers can't be forgotten about because of the Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa combo, 20 sacks between them. That's big time right there.
Well, you mentioned that you were in Foxborough for the game, and obviously the rematch that never was. And, boy, the Falcons stock is taking a hit. Now they go to the Meadowlands, take on the Jets, who have been far better than, pitching the tent that people thought they were to sort of sell out to get the number 1 pick. That's not going to be happening for them. They've been decent. They almost won again on Sunday against the Dolphins.
They should have won. They're up 2 touchdowns. They were in position. The backup quarterback's in the game. That's one that it's funny to think, we're at the point where we're saying the Jets should win a game like that. But yeah, that's, they've been competitive. They've really turned it on after a couple of bad games early in the season. It's been fun to watch them be, and they got kind of hosed a little bit by the officials and lost to New England 2 straight. Obviously the Falcons are at a crossroads too. Their offensive play calling has come into question. Defensively, they're doing whatever they can, but yeah, it hasn't been an MVP season for Matt Ryan. So, yeah, weird games all across the NFL. Like you said, it kind of reflects not only going against what we thought was going to happen this season, but just sort of the general turmoil that's been going on in the league and really knows, who knows who's good and what coaches are safe and all that stuff.
Well, you mentioned coordinators under fire, right? When coordinators change, things change. We saw that around here when Gary Kubiak wasn't here anymore. Yep. There are some guys who are geniuses about utilizing their talent, putting together, some sort of flow of a game, and when they disappear, Matt Ryan all of a sudden looks pedestrian, right?
Yeah, and I will warn people. I mean, Kyle Shanahan in 2015, which was his first year calling plays in Atlanta, they had a tough time scoring points. They bogged down in the red zone. This was an offense that felt like it was kind of stuck in second gear at times, stuck in neutral other times. It wasn't flowing the way they thought it would 2 years ago. Everyone was saying, hey, is Kyle Shanahan the right guy for the job? A year later, he's the boy genius. He's got his head coaching gig out in San Francisco. So a lot can change. I don't want to say that Steve Sarkisian, as odd a pick as it was for him to run the offense over guys like Chip Kelly and some of the guys they had on staff, look, I mean, he still has time to figure this out, and they have a lot of weapons. They have Julio Jones. They got a run game. There are flashes that make you think, okay, it's going to come at some point, but they do have to get back to what they do best, which is run the ball early, set up some play action, hit those home runs down the field, and they're going to get there. They just need to be better in the red zone. They were 1 for 4 in that game. That was a big reason why they lost.
He is Eric_Edholm out on Twitter, NFL writer for Pro Football Weekly. This segment brought to you by our friends at GNA, Coney Island Hot Dog in Highlandtown. The best hot dogs in the world. You know about it, GNARestaurant.com. And also our friends at Coppin State. We're doing the Juan Dixon Show. We're doing all the Coppin State basketball games here at WNST.net and AM 1570. We are your home for Eagles hoops at CoppinStateSports.com as well. All right, last thing for you on the knee and the league and Goodell and where all this is. Boy, Goodell doesn't get a day off, and I know he's making plenty of money and his contract's being held up and all that stuff. Do you think this thing has been quelled to some degree on the insurrection of ratings being down? I mean, I really do think some of this is there are just a lot of bad football games and a lot of mediocre football teams, but I do sense the anger in some segments of the Trump community here in Baltimore and around the country, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people are and I understand this is what the protests were meant for in the first place. They wanted to find a solution to say, hey, how can we help what we see as a racial divide in this country? Or what can we do to do our part? We'll do the protest, and hopefully that leads to something else. If we're in that phase of it right now where the NFL and the NFLPA, the players, the teams can come up with a good solution, towards improving their communities and playing their part, that's great. But yeah, the protest part of it, not only has it been sort of watered down a little bit, I think people have just kind of moved on a little. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe there is still anger on both sides, whether you're against the protest, whether you understand where the players are coming from. But I think people feel like that's a story that has kind of gone down the river a little bit, at least that aspect of it. So if it leads to change, if it leads to positive developments, great.
Yeah, well, the people that say I'm gone are already gone, and when they sneak back in, no one will notice, I mean, these people with purple basements for 20 years saying I'm done with the Ravens. I'll believe that when I see it. And people will talk with their pocketbooks, and they have, and there have been 10,000 people that haven't shown up. Okay, they're gone now. Now we're going to go play football again, right?
I think so, and that's the thing. There was a great story in Forbes this week that it was sort of addressing, okay, is the NFL losing viewership? And if so, who are these people who are leaving? It's not those people that you just described, the ones who've, painted their basement purple and the ones who've had season tickets for 20 years. It's the ones who are kind of the on-the-fence fans, the people who usually just tune in for the Super Bowl. A lot of those folks were paying attention to the NFL 2013 and 14. And that viewership has dropped off amongst the casual fans. They're not every week people anymore. They're tuning in here and there. They don't like what they see. They tune out. So it's really the hardcore fans are still there. It's the ones who are now kind of thinking, oh, maybe I like the NBA better. Maybe I'm more intrigued by the World Series, whatever it is. Those are the folks that the NFL, I think, has lost in recent seasons.
What's going on at Pro Football Weekly? You're running around covering football as well as anyone. Give a little shout-out and a plug for everything you guys are doing out there, man.
Yeah, I had a good time Sunday at the game. It was a very intriguing game. Obviously, was writing about that. I don't know where I'll be Sunday yet, but, writing about the Browns and their future quarterback situation. I could have written this story 18 years ago. It's probably about the same. But, just sort of looking around the league and seeing, what do the Colts do after this season? Do they fire Chuck Pagano? Do they, they think about trading Andrew Luck or T.Y. Hilton? I don't know. There's a lot of changes coming, and there's been a lot of big rumors about what's happening in Indy. Could Peyton Manning come back in a senior role? Could they go for a Jon Gruden and head coach? Rock star names. We're not there yet, but I will say that there are a lot of things being discussed in Indianapolis about the future of the Colts, a team that maybe one or two people still keep an eye on there. I don't know.
Do you really think Jon Gruden's going to coach again? I mean,
No,
I don't either. I don't. Guys never come back. Only Vermeil.
I know.
Nobody ever comes back, and I think life is too good, and when you go in and out of these buildings, you feel the juice of it, but then you feel the commitment of it as well.
I agree, and I will say, Gruden has always sort of hinted, he's left that out there, but then again, so did Bill Cowher. Bill Cowher hinted about that for years, and he suggested that if the right team or right two teams came, then maybe there'd be something. At least Gruden has been in Indianapolis in the last calendar year and has at least talked with the owner. I'll say that. We can at least say that Jim Irsay and Jon Gruden have had discussions. Whether it was a formal offer, whether there was real interest, who knows? But that might be the one situation or one of the situations he would consider. Ultimately, I don't think it happens, though.
Eric_Edholm is the way to follow him out at Pro Football Weekly. He's one of our pals out in Chicago. We're ships passing tonight, dude. I was in the Chicago airport there for 2 hours. By the way, the worst airport on earth, the Midway Airport. There's no food there. There's no fresh food. It's awful. Now they got rid of Harry Carey's. I'm pissed. But I was in Chicago for 2 hours, and I did think of you. So,
If you ever get to the Rick Bayless Mexican restaurant, I think there's one or two of them there. That's like an oasis in an otherwise desolate culinary experience over there at O'Hare.
You know what I went with, dude? It was 8 a.m. I went with the oatmeal, and someone said to me, "Oh man, just get a hot dog." I'm like, dude, if a hot dog is the highlight of your airport sucks. Really.
Yeah. It's a tough place to get to. It's a tough place to get out of, and it's a tough place to actually be at. So, yeah, O'Hare is not one of those places I recommend anybody spend any length of time at.
Eric, take care of yourself. We will check in again soon, and I hope my team's somewhere near 500 the next time we check in. I do have my doubts right now. We're all pessimistic.
I feel you, buddy.
It is the injury blues we have here, the injury purples, as I like to call it. You can find me out on the BuyAToyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear, like Steely Dan sang on Tuesday night. No static at all. Like FM, but it's AM, and it's on the internet. It's better than that. The morning newspaper delivers digitally to your email inbox at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. And last but never least, breaking news happens first on our WNST tech service. That is all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis will be here on Thursday getting you ready for the game from 3 until 5. It is the SSV on WNST. I am Nestor. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live anywhere you are on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.